Hi, welcome to another episode of Figs Talks Fights. I'm your host, Brian Figueredo, and today we're going to be getting into UFC 247, Jones versus Reyes, taking place this Saturday, February 8th, at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. Let's talk about it. So, we got Jon Jones and Dominic Reyes. Who's Dominic Reyes? If you haven't heard of him, this guy is a motherfucker. All right, he is by far worthy of this title shot. I know it's Jon Jones and the guy looks impossible to beat, but Dominic Reyes does have a great chance, okay? So let's talk about a bit of history about both of these guys coming into this fight. Now, Jon Jones originally won the light heavyweight title back in March of 2011. And outside of getting into shit outside of the octagon, this guy has been able to keep his title undefeated. He did get stripped for a brief moment in time for, having a hit and run with a pregnant lady, but hey, he's over it. He forgives himself, so let's forgive him too and move on. So anyhow, Jon Jones has had some controversy, well, pretty much his whole career, but let's go back all the way to UFC 200, where 2 days before he was supposed to fight Daniel Cormier in a rematch for the title, he pops for an estrogen blocker. In his late 20s. Estrogen, look, I'm not a steroid guy, but estrogen blockers, they are known to be taken by men who get off of steroids because testosterone is just not pumping the way it is and they don't want to grow, breast. So that's usually what the hell happens, just so they can regulate their testosterone. Okay, this is coming from a very non-expert in the whole PED world, but this is what I understand, okay? Right. But he wasn't taking it for that, of course. Jon Jones, a guy in his late 20s, was, of course, taking dick pills from a gas station that he got, right? Because he's in his late 20s. He's a world-class, elite-level athlete that requires a lot of blood to flow through his body and do it for a sustainable period of time, but, needs dick pills because he likes to party. Sure, okay, fine, give him a pass, good enough excuse, can't prove it against him, right? So, whatever. Anyhow, move forward. The guy serves his suspension, he comes back to face Daniel Cormier yet again at UFC 214, but he makes it to the fight, okay? It is a competitive fight in the beginning, but Jon Jones takes over in the third round, throws a high kick right at Daniel Cormier, TKOs him on the ground, puts him out, okay? Looks like Jon Jones is back and serious than ever. He's clean. All right. What are we going to get next? He's calling out Brock Lesnar. We got all this great shit ahead in it. Kaboom! Fails another drug test for Turinabol. Whatever the fuck is Turinabol? Apparently this is what bodybuilders in the 80s were taking to get all jacked up and juiced. Well, why the hell would a professional athlete need to have Turinabol? As it turns out, Jon Jones had no idea how the hell it got in his system. Well, maybe it's all true. I'm just really fucking skeptical about this, that the guy that needed dick pills, okay, a year later, just Turinabol popped up. I've heard Joe Rogan talk about it on his podcast sometime, like Jon Jones does like to party and get into some cocaine, whatever, that's his thing, yeah. But apparently, I don't know, they mix cocaine with creatine and shit, and maybe the creatine was contaminated with Turinabol, and that's probably how he got it in his system. Maybe. Or, I don't know, he was into freaking powerlifting and bodybuilding for a while, especially serving his whole suspension time. Maybe the guy took Turinabol. I don't fucking know. I can't prove otherwise, but I know that Jon Jones gets special treatment from USADA, so yeah, a year later, he's fighting back again, taking on Alexander Gustafsson. Now, Gustafsson was a tough fight for him because, if you don't recall, in September of 2013, the first time Gustafsson fought Jon Jones, a lot of people thought Gustafsson won. It was a split decision that went literally down to the end of the fifth round, and Jon just pulled it out with some championship heart. Got to give credit where it's due, and Jones just eked out the win in that fight. Controversial or not, he thought Gus won, fine, fair, not going to argue, but the record book shows Jon Jones successfully defended his title. So these guys get to rematch, and now we're talking about just a little over a year ago, okay? All of Jon Jones' suspensions were done, okay? And he's coming back. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's mention one thing about this card. It was supposed to take place in Las Vegas, Nevada, just after Christmas, okay? Christmas of 2018. but he starts pulsing for Turinabol in his system again, and they move the whole fucking card on 1 week's notice from Nevada to California because, John Jones is just getting treated unfairly by USADA, and we got to do things for him. Cough, Tom Lawler, that guy popped for something that he doesn't even know how to pronounce that came in some fucking supplements, and 2 years later they cut him, but whatever, he ain't John Jones, right? Anyhow, you can see where I stand on this bullshit, but John Jones comes in the fight, looks a little bit more conservative than he normally did in the past, but he still looks fantastic against Alexander Gustafsson, and eventually takes Gustafsson down in the 3rd round, lands some ground and pound, nasty old school John Jones elbows, and puts him away. Okay, he's back. The whole Turinabol pulsing thing, whatever. Okay, I'm not a fucking scientist, but sure. Moving forward, he then fights Anthony Lionheart Smith. Now, if you look at Anthony Lionheart Smith's record, it's not really fair to portray him on what he's actually capable of doing. He did take a lot of fights as a young man in the Midwest regional circuit, probably fights he shouldn't have fought, but hey, took him anyways, took some wins and losses, traded him back and forth, didn't have the greatest management team by his side at that time, so, tough start to a career, but nonetheless, Anthony Smith works his way up to a light heavyweight title shot coming in against John Jones, and John Jones, well, seemed kind of average fighting him, right? Anthony Smith is a tough cookie, but Anthony looked very hesitant in that fight as well. Now, should note that in the 4th round, John Jones does strike with, was it a knee or a kick? I think it was both. One got caught, one he didn't, okay? And really rocks Anthony Smith in the 4th round of that fight. Now, if Anthony Smith valued his bank account more than his own morals and values, he'd be a hell of a lot richer because he could have just taken a DQ in that fight. John Jones loses his title. Anthony Smith is your champion by DQ and would have set up a great rematch, but didn't happen. Look, at the end of the day, you don't take your money with you to the grave anyway, so if that's what Anthony Smith really needed to do for his own spirit and head and mind, whatever, good for you. Move on. Then John Jones in his most recent fight took on Thiago Santos last July at International Fight Week, and he also looked way more vulnerable. The most vulnerable I've ever seen him, even compared to the Gustafsson fight. The Gustafsson fight was just a surprise, but John Jones he was eating leg kicks. Thiago was getting off way more shots than him in the first 2 rounds. It looked like we were on our way to an upset, but Jones turns it around in the 3rd round and just starts putting it on Thiago Santos, picking his shots a little bit more. Take 1, landing 2, right? Ekes out the decision. That was another split decision. I know there's some people out there, credible people even like Chael Sonnen, felt Thiago Santos won that fight, but record books once again show John Jones won. So John Jones is starting to look human. Is it because he's getting a little older? He's in his early 30s now. The game is finally catching up to him. Or is it that he's popped twice by USADA, and if he strikes again, big star or not, that's probably it for him. I mean, 4 years away, like the minimum suspension on your 3rd strike is going to be 4 years. Of course, they'd probably only give John 2 or 3 or find some other bullshit excuse for him. But anyhow, nonetheless, can't really afford to get caught anymore. If he's even taking anything. That's if he even took anything in the first place. What the hell do I know? And I am saying that very sincerely. I'm not a PED guy. I've taken some protein powder in my life. That's about the extent of it. So I don't understand this shit. I don't understand why you'd want to do it in the first place. But anyhow, nonetheless, Dominic Reyes is coming into this fight hot. Now, Dominic Reyes, his UFC run has been fantastic. Okay? Taking out Jared Cannonier with a TKO in the 1st round. That's right, Jared the Killer Gorilla Cannonier. If you don't know who he is, check him out. He's now fighting at 185 pounds. This guy is a serious contender in that weight class, but wasn't his night that night. Dominic Reyes put him away. Then, after that, Dominic Reyes fights Ovince St. Preux. It was on the main card of the McGregor Nurmagomedov fight. I think it was UFC 239. Correct me if I'm right. It doesn't matter. Okay. What a great fight. Dominic Reyes just put it on Ovince St. Preux the whole time. Great showcase of his strikes. And in my opinion, they could have called that fight at the end of it. If you recall, at the end of the 3rd round, Ovince St. Preux, horn beeps, he pretty much looked like he was out. So, Great win by Dominic Reyes, not to mention that Jon Jones could not put away Ovince St. Preux over the course of 5 rounds, and that's when he started to look human. But moving forward, then Dominic Reyes goes on to fight Volkan No Time Oezdemir. Now, there's a reason why they call him No Time, because he literally doesn't waste any. He gets in, and this guy puts people away in under a minute. He's got so many fights just putting guys at, and they're small shots too. Pressed up against the clinch, just a little bit of a strike he can turn over, and he can shut guys lights out like nothing. But Oezdemir decided to take Dominic down in that fight. Now, a lot of people are saying suspect takedown defense because of Volkan Oezdemir. Now, if he's putting you on your back, well, in all fairness, I really don't think Reyes saw that coming. I didn't. I don't think anybody in the commentating booth during that fight saw that coming as well. But nonetheless, controversial decision. You could have given it to Volkan, but the history books show Dominic Reyes won that fight. Now, Dominic Reyes' most recent fight was against Chris Weidman. Now, Chris Weidman, I get he's not in his prime right now, okay? But this is the guy that put away Anderson the Spider Silva when Anderson was on a 16-fight winning streak. There was only a couple of decision wins in there. Anderson was putting people away. Chris Weidman had none of it, okay? Knocked Anderson Silva's ass out in the first round and then put it on Anderson in the second round, or second fight. They had a rematch after that. And if you recall, that was the fight where Anderson snapped his leg while Chris Weidman checked the leg kick. Yeah. Nasty if you really want to watch it, but if you're sadistic, hey, go ahead. Good shit. So Dominic Reyes fights Chris Weidman, and Chris is able to put him down for maybe half a second in the beginning of the fight. Gets Reyes on his back, he springs up like a cat, and he's just fighting off underhooks against the cage, and Chris is giving it his all. Now, they call Chris All-American for a reason, because he was a high-level All-American collegiate wrestler in his college career. He couldn't do shit. Couldn't do shit, okay? Dominic Reyes had the answer. Couple more takedown defenses or takedown attempts and successful defenses on Reyes' behalf. Catches him with a straight left. Weidman's out. Holy shit. Dominic Reyes is for real. Now, this is going to be Dominic Reyes' 13th fight. Should mention this is also Jon Jones' 14th title fight. If not, it's the 13th, but I know Jon Jones has just as many title fights, if not more, than Dominic Reyes has fights in general. Now, what does that mean going into the fight? Well, everything is always retrospect 2020, okay? But Jon Jones has way more experience than Reyes. But it's about where's his mind at. And Reyes seems like he believes, he knows he's the guy to defeat Jon Jones. Now, I've heard this from many guys before coming into the fight. Then they get in the cage with him and they go, shit, you know what? I'm going to take as least of a beating I can. I'm going to get a hell of a payday. I'm going to walk out of here. And if you heard Jon Jones' interview with Ariel Helwani, it's kind of what he's alluding to. Reyes is taking pictures of himself on a billboard like he's all proud of it, and Jones is trying to say, hey, he thinks he already won. He won the game. I'm off for a great legacy. Look, I ain't buying that shit for a second. So what? The guy's got his face on a freaking huge poster. Of course he's going to take a photo of it. Why the hell not? He's probably promoting the fight with you too, John, but just food for thought. So how is this fight going to look? Look, who the hell knows? I'm not one for predicting fights. I hate doing fight predictions. I think they're stupid. Anytime elite athletes, pin drops, the cage is closed, anything can happen, especially people swinging haymakers, okay? But I expect Jon Jones to come out very cautious like he has in the last couple of fights, try to pick Reyes apart and look for a takedown. But, I mean, Dominic Reyes is just like half a second away on a sprint from making an NFL team before he started his MMA career. He's a hell of an athlete. He's going to be a hard guy to put on his back, all right? Hell of a lot more power than Jon Jones seems to carry. Should be an interesting fight. Jon Jones should win, but I mean, this is the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas, which hosted Matt Serra knocking out George St. Pierre in April 2007 when nobody saw that coming, all right? I actually think Matt Serra was a bigger underdog fighting George St. Pierre at that fight than Dominic Reyes is on Saturday. So who the hell knows? Let's just hope it's a good fight, because this fight card kind of, hate to say it, sucks. At least on paper, this fight card sucks. So let's get to the rest of it. Valentina Shevchenko is fighting Chookagian for the Women's Flyweight Championship. I don't do fight predictions, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be a rough night for Chookagian. Now, Valentina Shevchenko, if you ask me, I think she's undefeated in the UFC minus, running out of time in the first Amanda Nunes fight, okay? If you don't recall, Valentina Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes fought each other, I believe on the UFC 196 main card, and Amanda Nunes put on her for 2 rounds, faded, and Valentina just got on top of her, got side control, and made Amanda look a little stupid, but she survived and won the fight. They then had a rematch about a year and a half later when Amanda was the champion defending her title against Valentina. Look, I thought Valentina won that fight. I really did. But Amanda successfully defended her title on the judges' scorecards and walks away. So since going down to 125 pounds, Valentina Shevchenko looks unstoppable. In fact, it kind of looks like assault. It doesn't look like fights are happening. It looks like an assault. This woman is so well-rounded. She might be the most well-rounded woman in mixed martial arts right now. Not to mention, she's also a professional dancer, okay? And she can speak like 12 million different freaking languages and is an expert in all kinds of freaking ammunition. So, yeah, I wouldn't mess with her either way. But Chookagian, she's got some great stand-up. Now, she trains, she's from Long Island, and she trains kind of on that East Coast corridor. I know she does her jiu-jitsu at Renzo Gracie Academy under the wizard John Danaher. If you know who John Danaher is, and you want to know anything about jiu-jitsu, shit, check out the Danaher Death Squad, but another video for another day, okay? And she also trains her striking under, Jesus Christ, Mark Henry. I'm so sorry. Mark Henry. Now, Mark Henry is a serious striking coach. People go freaking all over the world to go see Mark Henry, okay? There's literally guys from Dagestan that fly over just to train with this guy in his fucking basement so he can hold pads for you in his basement. Guys coming from Dagestan to go hold pads. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a shit ton of guys that can hold pads in Dagestan. Mark Henry's a special guy. So Chookagian's got some superb stand-up, especially for 125 pounds. Is it going to be enough to take on Valentina Shevchenko? I mean, we're going to find out, but I don't think that's going to matter. I think Valentina is going to put Chookagian on her back, and as much as Caitlin trains with the John Danaher Death Squad, or at least, I don't know if she trains with the Death Squad, pardon me, but I know she trains under John Danaher. I mean, the best I think she's going to do is survive. So let's see how this fight goes. I mean, like I said before, it's the Toyota Center, Houston, home of the biggest upset in MMA before, Matt Serra versus George St. Pierre. So let's see what the hell happens. Should be a good fight. I hope so. I just don't want to see a squash match or anything boring. I don't want to see Caitlin get too hesitant and just be happy to be there and doesn't want to get fucked up, right? We'll see how the fight goes. So another fight I want to highlight off this card is Derrick Lewis. The Black Beast is back, and he's facing Ilir Latifi. Now, Ilir Latifi is coming up from light heavyweight in this fight. He's making his heavyweight debut, and he's a whole 5'10". Thick as hell. I mean, this guy's got shoulders that start over here and end somewhere over here, and a neck that comes out like that. He literally looks like a 5'10" juggernaut. But the Black Beast is a juggernaut in himself. This guy used to have to cut weight to make 265 pounds. He used to have to cut weight to make 265 pounds. Seems like he's leaned out, coming in around 260, but Derrick Lewis is a big boy. All right, now, Ilir Latifi is a high-level wrestler coming out of Sweden, okay? I don't know if he actually went on their Olympic team, but I know he did train with the Olympic team nonetheless, okay? And this guy's got serious wrestling credentials, but the only guy that's really been able to control Derrick Lewis with wrestling credentials is Daniel Cormier. Ilir Latifi is no Daniel Cormier, even though similar size and height. I don't see that happening. Ilir Latifi, he probably is going to want to make Derrick Lewis think he's shooting for the takedown and either go for shots to the body, which Lewis is showing he's been a little susceptible to in the past, or throw an overhand right, catch him over top. If Lewis is just expecting for some guy to wrestle him, shoot on his hips, shoot on his legs, try to clinch him, he's not going to be keeping his hands up too high looking for that big overhand shot. So we'll see what the hell happens in that fight, but leaning towards more of Derrick the Black Beast Lewis. So there you have it. There's other fights on the card. Guys, I'm going to spend a half hour trying to tell you who the hell these guys are. There's a lot of prospects coming up on this fight card. It might be one of these fight cards that you look back at in 2 years and go, holy shit, this guy was fighting? Wow. But looking on paper at this time, it's pretty dull. It's top heavy. Enjoy the fights nonetheless, okay? So once again, Saturday, February 8th, John Jones, Dominic Reyes, light heavyweight title, Valentina Shevchenko, Caitlin Chookagian, women's flyweight title, all right? Those fights should be great, and looking forward to the Black Beast and Alir Latifi as always. So if you like the content here today, please subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that, and hopefully it can help me make some more content. All right, let's build this shit. Let's see what the hell happens. So till then, enjoy the fights, and possibly do a post-fight for this too. All right, tell me what you think. Cheers.